Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who currently regrets buying that ostrich farm. It's Todd Liebenow.
Ostrich burgers are actually very tasty. My wife, the region she grew up in, there were a lot of ostrich farms in that area right around the time we got married. And I remember you could just throw a rock and hit a place that was serving ostrich burgers, and they're quite good.
Oh, wow. So this really tied in. I like it. The only reason I brought that up is because in Tremors 2, let's see, what's the name of Tremors? Tremors 2, the name of that movie is...
Aftershocks,
yeah,
I think.
Aftershocks. He lost all of his money. Fred Ward lost all of his money. Earl on an ostrich farm.
Yeah.
And then in Eight-Legged Freaks, the mayor lost money on an ostrich farm as well, which is another creature feature.
See, I heard it was going to be the meat of the future, and that was right about the time those movies were made. So I don't know. I guess not. I mean, in the region I live in now, the beef substitute is bison. They go, for the buffalo meat out here more than the ostrich meat, and that's quite tasty too.
Oh yeah, I mean more of it, right?
Yeah.
Bison though, that'd be tougher for like a spider or a tremor or a graboid to take down. Ostriches seem like easy prey.
They'd put up more of a fight, I think. I mean, because, every time you go to a national park, there's signs up that say, don't get anywhere near the bison because basically they'll kill you.
Yeah. They will flip your car.
Yeah.
No, but this, no, thank you for, so I was a guest on your Forgotten Filmcast. We talked about Knight Riders. I mean, anything Romero, I'm going to talk about. So I love that you brought me on there. And I also saw that you talked about Trespass recently.
Yes.
Does that hold up? Because I need to listen to that. I want to watch it and then listen to your episode because someone brought it up the other day to me and I had totally forgotten it, which is perfect for your podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say if it holds up because that was my first time watching it, and I had a lot of fun with it. I love it when Walter Hill gets weird on you. I love like The Warriors and Streets of Fire, and Trespass kind of falls into that same kind of category. But the weirdest thing about Trespass is that it's written by the guys who wrote Back to the Future.
Whoa.
Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, and I guess it was like an early script that they did, and then they twisted it around a bit for, kind of the 90s hip hop feel, put Ice-T and Ice Cube in there. And I'm like, how did this come out of the same team that gave us Back to the Future? It just seems kind of strange.
Wow. And Dennis Leary's the villain, correct?
No. Trespass.
Trespass is... Judgment Night is the other one with Stephen Dorff.
Yeah.
And Emilio Estevez. And...
This is the one where you've got Bill Paxton and William Sadler, and they're, kind of on one side, and then you've got Ice Cube and Ice-T on the other side, and it's this showdown in a burnt out warehouse in East St. Louis, Illinois, and, gritty 90s fun.
I confuse that with Judgment Night, where Dennis Leary's the villain and he's hunting Emilio Estevez and Cuba Gooding Jr. And
yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't think I've seen that one either. So yeah, now I got to go look for that one.
I got to watch Trust Me. Hey, and also, is Swing Shift still available for your Forgotten Filmcast?
We have not done Swing Shift yet. It's one that I've had on my list for a while here, and I know you're big on Kurt Russell, so that's certainly one. I mean, that's the one where Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn hooked up, and it's directed by Jonathan Demme, and it's another one I've never seen that is one that I hear mixed things about because people say it's not really a true Demme film. I guess I don't know if there were behind the scenes issues or what was going on there. I've heard all kinds of stories, but Jonathan Demme directed it, and I mean, from what I've heard, there's kind of mixed feelings about it because some people say it's kind of not like a true Jonathan Demme film, not quite like his other stuff. And, there might have been behind the scenes problems, things like that. But, I'm curious about it. That's the thing. I'm all about checking out those things that nobody talks about anymore.
Well, later on down the line, if that's still available, I'd love to come back on your show and talk about that because it's Kurt Russell.
Oh, absolutely.
Got to talk.
We'll have to just kind of set it aside for you, I guess.
I love it. That'd be awesome. And then, so I have another question for you. All right. So as the series has progressed, and I know that you recently did a rewatch of some of the later Tremors films, do you like the graboids when they were mysterious, where they either came from space, like radiation, or a government conspiracy and we never know? Or do you like knowing that graboids are hatched by eggs left by ass blasters?
Yeah.
And then those eggs become dirt dragons, and then they metamorphosize into 3 to 6 shriekers, which spit a cocoon each, and those become clones. And when they become 3 days old, they molt into ass blasters who start the cycle again. Do you like the mystery, or do you like knowing where these
No,
things come from?
I like the mystery. I mean, the whole evolutionary process of these things got a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I didn't go into this, necessarily intending to watch all the movies, but I was like, okay, I got to rewatch the first Tremors. I love the movie, but it's been many years since I've seen it. And I found a copy at the used DVD shop, and it was the first 4 movies. So I was like, well, what the heck? I'll buy the box set here. And then I found the 5th one at the library, and the 6th one is on Netflix. So I watched them all. But yeah, I think it's more fun when there's mystery about it, because it does start to get a little bit ridiculous. The Shriekers I was kind of okay with. I was like, all right, they're kind of cool. But yeah, the flying version that has fire coming out of their rear end, that was getting a little too ridiculous for me.
Yeah, it kind of completed the cycle of it. I don't like it. I like the mystery that is created in the first Tremors, and I like that they purposely just didn't explain any of it. I mean,
That's the key to great movie monsters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about like King Kong, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and whatever, you don't want too much backstory. You just want the monster.
Because how have they been feeding? Where have they been? It's just
How have they stayed a mystery all these years? Yeah, exactly.
And they haven't been picked up the 3 years prior when the machinery was laid in there. I just love. All right, so you hadn't watched this in many years. What were your thoughts about it watching it again after a long time not viewing it?
Oh, it took me back to when I saw it the first time. I mean, the first one is just so much fun.
Yeah.
I remember going to see it in the theater, and it was one of those cases where I was not that interested in seeing it. My friend, who I always went to the movies with, he was like, well, let's go see Tremors. I was like, really? The Kevin Bacon with giant worms? It seems like Bacon's slumming it here. What? I don't really want to see that. But we went and saw it, and it was just so great. It's kind of like, I mean, it's one of the first movies of the 90s, because it was released in, I think, January of 1990. But, I look at it and go, well, here's like the last great movie of the 80s, really, because it's only missing it by a few weeks. So, yeah, it's a true, fun monster movie, in all the ways that monster movies are great and silly. This kind of just captures that feel that you get in so many older monster movies, from the 50s or whatever. You get giant things roaming around the desert or whatever. Well, that's what you got here, but they're just underground, and it's wild fun.
The original title for this was Land Sharks.
I did see that. Yeah. Were they going to get Chevy Chase to play the graboid, I guess?
Isn't that crazy? Land Sharks. I mean, I love shark movies, but I love how this movie evolved too. This went through quite an evolution process. Did you on the DVD you have? Did it have that behind the scenes documentary on there?
No, I don't think so. I think it was a pretty bare bones DVD that I had there. But I did see a few things on like YouTube and stuff, just because after you watch the movie, you're curious about various things there, and there were all kinds of things I hadn't even really thought about with this film. I'd never thought to look too in depth about like who the writers were and things like that. And I'm like, these guys wrote a lot of stuff. These guys wrote Short Circuit and Short Circuit 2. They wrote Batteries Not Included. So they're good in my book.
They were big names when they kind of signed on. They had some cred going on. And I also thought Ron Underwood did a really good job directing this film. And I think the reason 30 years later it looks so good is I watched this behind the scenes documentary, and I learned about all the practical effects that they had. Like, they would build trenches in the ground, and then they would put a buoy that you normally put in the sea, attach it to a chain, then they would cover it with a bunch of dirt and pull it to make it seem like the graboids were moving through the ground. The scene with the jackhammer, there was loose asphalt. And also I love when it attacks Bert and Reba. I love Reba in this movie. She's so cool. She is so cool in this movie.
Yeah, and I'm sad she doesn't show up in any of the other films, to be honest with you.
I love her in this movie. But when it attacks and then it lifts its head and it knocks out the ceiling, you probably know this, but that was a puppet. Like, they filmed. Yeah. That was just a miniature. And all the matte paintings, it felt this, I don't know, but you watch it again and this movie doesn't look 30 years old. Some movies look 30 years old. This does not. This is aged really well. Tremors.
It has and it's shot really well. I mean, it's a lot of these shots of, just desolate desert, mountains, rocks and things like that. But they capture them in a really kind of intriguing way. And I don't know that the following films do as good a job, but I mean, from the standpoint of the cinematography and such, I mean, it's a very well produced film for a film that's a B grade monster movie that they slotted for release in January of 1990. This is a heck of a lot better movie than it has any right to be.
Oh, for sure. And the production design by Ivo Cristante, like they built that entire town in 2 months, like in the middle of nowhere. They just built that thing. And I had, it's funny, I had never thought about that. It's a good looking town that they built. And I liked that, the convenience store that they were on, they built it on a big like gimbal, so it could collapse and move back up. So they could just drop it and then pick it back up. So, I mean, this is a really, I don't know. I loved all the gags and, oh man. And then they talked about making the miniatures, and this guy said he sat somewhere like making a miniature for 2 weeks, just painting a tiny desk to make it seem to scale in Gummer's basement. So, I mean, it's cool.
That's the thing. I saw some behind the scenes footage where they're showing like, them filming the graboid bursting through the wall in Bert's basement. And it's a miniature, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I never would have known. It looks so believable. I had assumed that they made an actual big puppet of the thing. And when you're talking about the town, yeah, I mean, the town is actually quite believable for a small little town like that. I actually have had to make several trips into the mountains of Colorado here where I live this fall, and stopped in this little town where I have to drop off the person that I'm transporting, and it looks a heck of a lot like this little town does. I'm going, boy, I should probably be watching out for graboids here. It's just it feels like the real thing.
Has that movie ever done that to you? So I watched Dawn of the Dead, right? And whenever I walk through a mall, I'm like, how would I fortify this? When I'm in the water, I always look underneath me. And I've done that before where I've been hiking or somewhere similar. And a graboid, I know it's not going to come out of the ground, but you get that thought from this movie. And I think it's sort of ingrained in a lot of people that way. Like, oh, yeah. People love graboids.
Every time I go out on some kind of hike here in Colorado, I don't do the too terribly rugged stuff, but I'll go out, to one of our state parks or things like that. And you've always got rock formations and things like that. And this movie always pops into my head every single time. You spot a big rock and you go, well, that's where I'm running if a graboid shows up,
Well, I'd be able to pole vault if I'm stuck on these rocks.
That is such a wonderful sequence in this movie.
And I guess getting into the movie, have you ever seen a movie where, I mean, people get wiped out, the doctor and his family, people die brutally in this film, but all throughout you're smiling. There's a lot of harmonica on the score, which is kind of weird. I don't know how I picked that up, but it's a very joyful movie where a lot of people die. It's a tonal balancing act, but I think they do it really well.
Well, yeah, the movie does have a good sense of humor to it, and so, I mean, even when you have these moments that are a little bit more gruesome, it's hard to really sink totally into the doldrums there because, it is such a joyous film. But some of the deaths, I do kind of, I mean, like Victor Wong especially. I mean, Victor Wong's so wonderful, but it's like you hate to see Victor Wong die. I mean, from the beginning of the movie, you kind of know, well, he's going to die, but you're like, no, it's Victor Wong. Come on.
I love his brief scenes with Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon when he buys the graboid tongue, I guess, off of them for $15. Yes. But I love the shakedown scene because at first he's, Kevin Bacon says 20, he says 10. Then I like when Fred Ward jumps to the side and says 15, and Victor Wong is like, all right, I admit defeat. It was a fun, it was I think this movie also had some really good character actors that they brought in. It was a strong all-around cast to it. I think they gelled pretty well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I really like, too, is I think all these actors do a great job of bringing these characters to life, and they don't belittle them. I mean, these are the type of characters that it would be very easy for them to make into just a bunch of idiots, because it's kind of that it's that flyover country syndrome. I mean, being someone who has always lived in the middle parts of the country my whole life, I get frustrated sometimes when I see Hollywood productions that really kind of just make everybody that doesn't live on either one of the coasts out to be an idiot, And this is a film where you've got a bunch of characters who are rural characters. They're hardworking folks. They don't have the type of lifestyles that would typically be glamorized by Hollywood. But they don't present like, Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward's characters as idiots. Even Michael Gross and Reba McEntire. I mean, I wondered if they were to remake this today, how they would do those two characters specifically different, because their whole thing is that they're so into, the self-protection and the guns and the home defense and all that stuff. And I'm just thinking in our culture today, they would be portrayed as idiots, and they're not. And just the fact that they lean on Michael Gross's character throughout this franchise, he's the one who has kept it going. And, I think they've softened him a little bit over the course of the 6 films, but his whole genesis is he's a character obsessed with guns. And that's what they've hung this franchise on.
That's a great point. And I also love the line where they're like, you're going to have a heart attack before you can even survive the apocalypse. Because he's always worrying. I thought that was a really good bit. No, but that's a great point, because I liked what you said about I had not even thought about that, to where they weren't treated like they were just kind of bumpkins. And what Nancy, she comes back for 3, actually. Her and her daughter, Ariana, what's her name?
The girl from Jurassic Park.
And they come back for 3, but I like how she's a successful pottery maker, I guess. She could pay 2 men to build something for her for a month, pay them lunches and beer. So that's a good point. There's some successful people in this town, or not successful, but I don't know. That's a good point. I hadn't picked up on that. I almost appreciate the movie more now.
Yeah, the one character that I'm a little bit confused of all the time, though, is the teenage kid Melvin.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, where's his parents? He's just this 15-year-old kid, but they don't make any reference to his parents ever. I'm like, what is he, just some 15-year-old runaway that lives in this little town in Nevada?
That makes it a great 80s movie if you think about it, because in those movies the kids never had parental.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's not Nestor's kid. He's not with Miguel. He's not Earl or Valentine's. Bert and Heather, no. Yeah, so maybe, that we know of. Is it like maybe a long haul driver? Or is that his daycare? The parents go to work and dump him off?
Yeah, I don't know. And then he comes back later in the series too, which was, kind of surprising. They bring him back as sort of a villain in 3, I think it was.
Yeah, so. He wants to buy the land, but El Blanco becomes an endangered species, and they end up living with right? Remember it's El Blanco, right? The albino graboid.
Oh yeah, right.
And then they can't sell it because it becomes an endangered area. This plot, So I have the plots broken down to the 5. You saw them as well, but I broke down the plots of all 6, just ready to kind of talk about. Like the second one, they introduce the Shriekers, right?
Yeah.
And then they go to what? Yeah, they go to Mexico and they use remote control cars.
Mexico.
Yeah, they use remote control cars to blow them up. And then the third one, they introduce the flying guys, and then they introduce El Blanco, who eats other graboids. They become an endangered species. And then Tremors 4 is a prequel where this town's name is Rejection. They know about the Tremors, but they don't tell anybody because they want people to live there, which kills people later on.
It's a Western one, and I gotta admit, of the sequels, that was the one I think that intrigued me the most. I kind of liked them going back to the Old West with
Billy Drago getting killed, of course.
Well, yeah, you can't go wrong with Billy Drago in there.
Gotta wipe him out. And then Tremors 5 and 6 are just the relationship between Bert and Jamie Kennedy, who I like in these movies. But 6, when they cheat night, like they'll film day for night. But remember in this one, it's supposed to be in the Arctic, but they just filmed somewhere and put a blue tint on it.
Right. There, that was the thing that disappointed me about 6 the most, was that there's not a whole heck of a lot of scenes that are out in the vast snowy wilderness. And I thought that was what this was going to be. That's what the poster image is, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, they're just kind of out in the, same kind of environment they've always been in, but it's got kind of a blue tint to it. Yeah.
That was weird.
Now,
And
five was a little weird because that one struck me as just how violent it was. That one was the bloodiest, I think, of all these. I mean, all these films got a degree of grossness to it, but it's mostly, blowing up graboids, and you've got, slimy red jello looking stuff and all that. But in 5, you had like, limbs coming off and blood, and, I wondered if that one, I don't know if it's actually got a rating or not, but I thought that's the one that's kind of closest to being an R rating out of most of these are PG-13.
Wow. Yeah. I don't even remember. They go to South Africa, right? And
yes.
But it turns out there's a guy on the black market who wants the eggs, but then they take the eggs, and that means the queen graboid or whatever attacks them, right?
Right.
So it's like Jurassic Park 3, where the raptors are chasing them for the eggs.
Well, it's very much like Jurassic Park. There's even a shot in there of the, like a shrieker's clawed foot coming in, and it looks just like the kitchen sequence from Jurassic Park.
Oh goodness! I bet you Jay Cluett of Life First Film and the Lambcast would love us talking about Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
That's the best of the franchise, right?
Franchise. Jurassic Park 3, no, I never got to do the official rating on an episode of the show for the series, but no, let me put it this way. I put Jurassic Park 3 above Fallen Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, any day of the week. So how would you rate these Tremors movies?
Oh, I was thinking about that earlier. I mean, obviously the first one is the best, no question there. I think I would actually go 4 next, because I was really intrigued by the Old West premise there. And then I'd probably go 2. 2 is fine. 2 kind of suffers a little bit because I think one of the things that's so strong about the first one is the dynamic between Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, and you got no Bacon in the second one. So yeah, I go 1, 4, 2, then 5, 6, and 3 is the one that kind of I was not as thrilled with.
Oh wow. I like that. I thought maybe 5 and 6 were going to be the last, but 3 got it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool. Yeah, I think I put 6 last, because that whole ice thing. I do your list, but I would do Tremors, Legend Begins, 2, and then I do 5, 3, and then 6.
Yeah, I get that. The 5, 6, and 3 are all pretty close quality wise, I would say. But yeah, and I did see that they're like, I think they just announced this week that, they have officially started filming on number 7.
Oh, and it's on an island, right?
Oh, I hadn't heard that yet. I hadn't heard what the premise was.
Michael Gross, I think it's just something people, they keep making him. So he just, I don't know, he has really inhabited that character, hasn't he? As Bert.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, what are the 2 characters you think of most when you think of Michael Gross? You think of this, and you think of him playing the dad on Family Ties.
Like, they didn't want him for this. Oh.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who I saw that they were looking at instead of Michael Gross, but it's hard to imagine anyone else in this part. He does such a great job, and it's strange to think that they took this supporting character and made it the thing that was going to drive the series going forward. And I'm sure part of that is because they couldn't get Kevin Bacon and they couldn't get Fred Ward, but Michael Gross is really owned this and really made this franchise something interesting here.
Did you hear about the casting of Reba? Did you hear how that went down?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the director Ron Underwood didn't want her. Then he met her for a second, was like, okay, you're in. Like, she's just such a warm, he's like, she just took over the room, and she was like my favorite person ever. And he just gave her the role right then and there.
She somehow is able to be both, that character that is, kind of the perfect match for Gross's that guy there, where, she's obsessed with the guns and all that. But she also is just like this mom, and you just kind of, you look at her and you go, oh, I want Reba McEntire for my mom,
That scene where she's like, you're not going to get much with that AR. Here, take my gun. It has more stopping power. Yeah. She gives over. And I got to tell you, this movie does a really good job. So in the beginning, we meet the 2 characters. And Kevin Bacon is peeing off the cliff that the graboid flies off of at the end. And then
I didn't even think of the book ending of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and so then he's doing that. And then you go into town and you are introduced to the basketball. You're introduced to the pogo stick. You're introduced to the Coke machine. And then they're buying the bullets, the hollow point bullets that aren't the hollow point bullets they wanted, that they end up putting in the mixer later that brings the graboids to them. So in the first, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, all these elements come back. I don't know if that's screenwriting, like the ABCs of screenwriting or really good screenwriting, but it's kind of cool how everything, like you said, it's bookended and all the little things in the beginning come into play later. It's kind of, I don't know, it's like Chekhov's everything in that, but I don't know if you kind of noticed how everything ties back in later on.
I didn't. I guess, I mean, it all makes sense now that you mention it there, but yeah, that's pretty well structured there. I got to hand it to these writers.
Yeah, I've been watching it a lot. Like I've been like, would I eat bologna and beans or would I eat eggs over easy? I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely do. No, who do you think made breakfast the day before?
I don't know. I would kind of think that if Fred Ward's character Earl wasn't doing most of the cooking, that they'd probably go hungry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't want to do bologna and beans every morning.
Yeah.
So did they sleep out there? So I guess they just work and sleep and then wake up.
Sleep in the back of the truck or something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's cool about these two characters is that they're just they do whatever job they happen to find. You know, whatever needs to be done, they'll do it. If they don't know how to do it, they'll learn it, or they'll do a good job faking you out to convince you that they actually know what they're doing. But yeah, I love that it's just kind of these two guys and they're just, hanging out in this town and whatever opportunity arises. Well, if that's what they need to do to survive, that's what they're going to do, which kind of makes them perfect for, when you have to figure out how you're going to battle a couple of giant worms that are sneaking around the desert.
Yeah, and they also, when they're dealing with the trash, they're dealing the armored, like the tractor, the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're using that in the beginning too, which comes into play later on. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's a lot of layers to this thing.
Jeez Louise. And then what do you think about as the movie progresses, the graboids, Tremors, they get smarter and smarter. And they dubbed one of them has a nickname. They call him Stumpy. He's the one that gets his tentacle ripped out on the Jeep, which they sell for $15. And that's the one who they think spits the explosives back at the Rock. So
right.
Did you like how they kind of became intelligent quick? Like almost Raptor and wait, did Jurassic Park rip this off? No. Like they became Raptor smart pretty quick. How'd you sort of feel about their evolution of these creatures?
I think that part of things made more sense to me than, the actual physical evolution that the creatures take as in the, later films that we talked about before. I liked seeing, that, we do this to try and battle the monsters. Oh, they get smart. Now we have to come up with something different. That kind of makes more sense than, suddenly the giant worm is turning into a thing that looks like a chicken with, fire coming out of its rear end. Yeah.
Quickly in 3 days. How does it?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
It's that's also where the effects get a little bit crude. I mean, the as you said, the visual effects they did in the first film, it's good stuff. There's good practical effects, good puppetry stuff going on there. But then we're getting just computer generated, things that are jumping around and flying around, and they are not very good quality because we're at direct to video stage by that point in the series, and it doesn't look as sharp.
I mean, they brought in some big names. I mean, Gail Ann Hurd was producing this at the time. She was coming from Terminator, just like a big name. And then they brought in guys who had worked on Aliens. So they had, the really big Tom Woodruff worked on this. And Tom Woodruff had worked on Jurassic World, AVP, Evolution. He had worked on Alien 3, Aliens, Jumanji, Starship Troopers. And then the guys that did their miniatures also had worked on Aliens in the Abyss. So and also they brought in, I think Kurtzman was on this. Some really big names from like KMB were working on these practical effects.
You mentioned Starship Troopers. There is definitely a little bit. I can see the the similarity between the look of the worms, the graboids, and the bugs in Starship Troopers. I mean, just like the mandibles and such, very similar in design there. I can see that.
Wow, and they had the big worm too, right? That like the brain Starship Trooper thing. Or
that scene always creeps me out in that movie.
When it sucked the brains out of the person's head.
Yeah, that's gross. And come on, Verhoeven.
Another funny story is when the first, which I love this scene, so Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward, Valentine and Earl, they find out that the roads are blocked, people have died, and they're on these horses to go to the next town to get help. But they're ambushed by a graboid and they end up running, but they jump through this concrete, I don't know, drainage area, I guess. To prevent, and the tremor graboid runs into it. Now, initially, the guys who did the effects for it, they didn't want to use a lot of goo because they had just gotten off of Aliens, and they're like, we had to deal with so much slime, we just never ever wanted to deal with slime again. But when they filmed it, it didn't look right, so the guys are like, crap, we have to use slime. So they loaded that thing up with slime, and they're like, never underestimate the value of slime in a movie. So I kind of thought that they tried to avoid it, but then they ended up just going, yeah, we got to make these juicy.
Well, and they don't, I mean, they kind of progress when it comes to the slime factor. I mean, when that first one dies, because it runs into the wall, for that drainage ditch, like what you say, we don't actually see that much. We see the concrete crack. We see one of those, worm-like things that comes out of the mouth, kind of slide out of the crack, and it's dripping goo and all that stuff. And we don't actually see the full monster at that point. They take their time before they show it to us. Now, eventually, as we get to the end of the film and the thing, plummets off the cliff and it explodes in this big, thing of, it looks like they just like had Jell-O and V8 juice, stuffed into this weird thing and they just let it blow up. It gets pretty slimy there, but, I like that, to some degree you kind of have the Jaws approach here where we don't, see the full monster right away, and even when we do see it pop out of the ground, it's in fleeting glimpses. I actually like that the first thing we see are the little tongue things and we think, oh, well, these are the monsters. And then we realize, oh, no, that's just a smaller part of the bigger monster. I actually think the tongues are more intimidating than the full monster. Yeah. I mean, they're devilish looking. They've got like little horns on them and things like that. They're gross.
Are they sentient? Are they?
I wondered the same thing. Do they have like their own mind, or how's this whole thing work? And that would have been a better step for the evolution thing. Don't give me these chicken looking things. I'll have the little worm tongues crawl out and they become something else. That would have been a cooler way to take things.
Well, that's horrifying. That'd be so scary. Like juicy worm things eating you. Smart.
Oh, man.
They were pretty sassy. Like they had some noises and they were, they had to have had their own thought process, right?
Well, you would think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they seem like they're able to, sense where things are. And that's another thing. I mean, the whole way that the beasts are finding their prey is that they're hearing the sounds and hearing the movements above. But how does that translate? Is that just the main big graboid that senses that? Do the tongues sense that on their own? How do the tongues know where to go when they're out of the ground and they're, wiggling around and such? There's certainly a lot of science questions that don't get answered here, but I don't mind because it's a big gross monster and it's cool.
Hey, how about this? Let's take a real quick break and then we come back. We'll talk more Tremors. We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And so we were just talking about, I don't know, the giant awesome monsters that we dig. But I think you're also right, though, that this movie works because of just the really likable characters. And I liked Rhonda a lot, played by Finn Carter. I thought she was a kind of a breath of fresh air in this movie.
I was going to say, we haven't really talked about her. We talked about all these other characters and didn't talk about the third lead in this. And I like her too. She's, she's got a lot of spunk to her. And I think it's a good contrast. She's this college student who's got a lot of, smarts and all that. And then you've got these two simple guys that, like we said, are working out in rural Nevada and things like that. There's a good dynamic there. And I also like that they don't kind of belabor the romance thing, with her and Kevin Bacon's character. There's just enough of it there that, it's fine. It's two characters thrown into extreme situation. It's like Keanu and Sandra Bullock in Speed. It's the same type of thing here. You got these two characters characters that have experienced something weird together, and the romance blossoms out of that. And I guess, I mean, do we spoil things for the future films?
Yeah, do it. We
do find out that their relationship succeeds and births a daughter who ends up fighting graboids in the 6th film. So,
what was I gonna? Oh, they had test screenings for this movie. I don't know if you saw this when you were researching this, and they had a version where I don't think they kissed, the two of them, and the director said that the audience was really annoyed by that, and they were screaming like, "You better kiss." So they went. Maybe they already had that and they added it back in, but the audience was just screaming, "Kiss her" during this movie. So people were pretty invested in these two, I guess. But they worked well together.
Yeah, I think so.
And I liked her pole vaulting. She was responsible for one of my favorite scenes in a monster movie, the pole vaulting.
The pole vaulting is fun because it's just so darn clever. And, it's also one of those things where, again, out on a hike or something, you see different rocks. This movie has popped into my mind and I go, gee, if I had a pole, could I make it between these rocks?
And while the two guys are arguing, she's the one figuring out the plan. And then I like when they finally escaped out of the car, how she's driving with her hands and they're not helping her. And she's like, guys, can you help me out?
Yeah.
And then she ends up later on, she saves him by kicking the water pipe and drawing the graboid away. Yeah. No.
Yeah, they come up with a lot of ingenious things for drawing the graboids away. And I guess that's another thing that as the series progresses, they kind of start to run out of things to draw them away. In fact, some of the later films, I think, kind of start to repeat some of the things that we've seen before. But in this first film, when you've got, like you say with the water, or they send the little tractor out, things like that kind of draw the graboids away. You're thinking, boy, in this little town where there's not a whole lot there, they're being very resourceful.
Yeah. And do you not get tense every time you see that little tractor or lawn or whatever, tractor just going down the road? You know it's going to flip, but you're like, don't flip. Right. And then it flips and you're like, no. Oh man.
Well, and, all the other little things that they put in there to raise the tension. And again, I mean, it's hard to say it's a terribly tense movie because, like I say, it is pretty lighthearted and, it's never too terribly scary. But there are things that pop up that you just go, oh, no, like when the little girl starts going on the pogo stick. Yeah. All these other guys have been in the store and they've been watching what the graboids are doing. And then suddenly the little girl from Jurassic Park's out there on the pogo stick. And you're going, what? Come on.
And she has the headphones on, too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, man. And then that guy goes on the tire. There's some pretty inventive kills in this movie.
Oh, the tire one is bad. That's Nestor, isn't it? Who dies in the tire, and you're just going, dude, that's not gonna do it.
And I do like, I've never even thought about this before, but like the rules change a lot in this movie, but it doesn't matter because it's a weird creature feature, so you have no idea what the rules are for these monsters. That thing reached out and sucked him through a tire, but other times it couldn't get other people. But I mean, that's just what the narrative has, and it's a fun visual seeing a guy getting eaten through a tire, than dragged through the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's see, where else are we at with this movie? I told you I have 12 pages of notes on this. No, but I think you're absolutely right though. What makes this movie work though is the Fred Ward Kevin Bacon friendship. These two guys really sort of work their butts off in this movie to make it interesting. And they have, I don't know, I like their dynamic a lot. What was it, like an uncle or like old? He's older. Kevin Bacon's younger. It's not a father-son. How would you explain the relationship?
Well, that's the thing. I kind of wondered what exactly brought these two guys together. Because like you say, they're not two guys that are the same age. They wouldn't have been like, buddies since they were young type of things. One guy is, Kevin Bacon. I don't know how old Kevin Bacon was when he made this, but I mean, for all I know, this is not that many years off of Footloose. He was still in high school back then in my mind, even though he'd already been in college in Animal House many years before that. Yeah. But anyway, Kevin Bacon's the young guy. Fred Ward's older, so I mean, you get the impression that these two guys just like ended up on some odd job together at some point and neither one could ever quite let the other one go for some reason. They just, figured out that they worked well together and they could make some bread, if the two of them combine their efforts. And I totally buy what's going on there with them. I don't know why they ended up together. Part of me is a little curious, but it's not necessary. There's just these two guys who have this kind of symbiotic relationship. They just go around and find jobs to do, and they survive together because of each other.
And then you have their rock, paper, scissors that they play. And then he's trying to get him to hook up with, Rhonda? Or Earl's trying to get Val to hook up with Rhonda. So he's like looking out. He gives him advice. I also like the scene where he's like, you're not thinking we can get paid today and not tomorrow. And then later Kevin Bacon's like, we plan ahead so we don't have to do anything today. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So they're not really are they on the same page with that?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of times where they're not quite on the same page as each other, but they still work well together. I mean, you do definitely get the impression that it's almost like a mentor thing going on with Fred Ward's character. Like, he's like, I'm going to mold this young guy into my own image type of a thing.
Now, so now that you've seen 3 and you know that Miguel survives, did you hate that Miguel dies in the third one?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. One of the things that frustrates me about the third one is that they do bring back these various characters, but I don't know. It was kind of like, just like, hey, look, it's so-and-so from the first movie. Remember? Yeah. And I'm kind of going, it doesn't pay off well. And yeah, seeing Miguel go in the third film was really disappointing because he plays an important role in the first film, and he's a type of character where early on, first time watching this movie almost 30 years ago, I kind of thought, well, he's going to die probably. And he doesn't. He sticks through with things. He becomes somewhat heroic in parts of the film. So yeah, to just kind of, chuck him away then in the third film was disappointing.
Yeah, that bummed me out. You know what? I'm putting that last now. I'm going exactly with your list now. That bums me out. But and also when you watch this movie for the first time, and when the graboid busts through the Gummers' basement and they just blow it away with like probably 20 different guns, like how happy did that make you? I mean, that was just like, it was just target practice.
Yeah.
It worked out perfectly for them, of course. But they just stand there shooting the thing, and he busts out an elephant gun.
Yeah. It's a fantastic scene. And, again, thinking in terms of what would they do differently now, I don't see that scene showing up in this film if they were to remake it today, because, they'd probably see it as glorifying gun culture or things like that. I don't know. But, I love the fact that this creature that has been, plucking people out of off the ground and swallowing them whole, gets more than he bargained for here because he picks the wrong basement to bust into.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, just watching Reva like shoot away at that thing. That made me so happy. Do you think they could have defeated the graboids if they stayed there?
Well, but, we keep saying that the graboids keep getting smarter with everything, Yeah. So I think the other ones would have seen what's going on there and would have known, well, this is not what we got to do. So, yeah.
They would just wait them out or gone somewhere else?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they showed themselves as being clever enough. I mean, early on in the film, they've got our 3 leads trapped on the rocks, and it looks like this whole strategy is just to starve them out,
Mm-hmm. Do you think
they're smart enough to do that?
Are they doing this for food, or are they doing this to kill anybody who knows what they are?
You know what? There are times when you're watching this where you think, well, the graboids are just trying to survive. Okay, they got to eat. What are they going to eat? Like you say, they're going to pluck a bison off the range or something like that. They're looking for a little variety in their diet. I don't know. That's why we need some bacon in the diet, I guess. Whatever. But there are also other times in this where you think, I don't know that they're doing this just for food. They may be doing this for sport. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, or maybe they're just annoyed that one of their, because these things are very old. Like, we can assume that they're super old, right? Just how big they've gotten?
Well, yeah, and I mean they talk about them. I mean they use all kind of scientific terms to describe what kind of creatures these are. So yeah, for all we know, these can be. I mean they've got that kind of hard-looking skin like a tortoise. Or I mean tortoise lives hundreds of years. You know these things could have been lurking around all this time. Could be the same graboids that were in that Part 4 prequel that are showing up here today. I don't know.
So they're bummed. So they could be mad that one of them died. But well, they wouldn't have known that one ran right into the concrete, would they have?
Oh, they don't have eyes, but they got to have some way of figuring this out. I don't know.
Did that tremor knock those rocks down on purpose, or the graboid? Remember with the construction workers who jackhammers one of them?
It might have.
Or was that a happy accident?
I wouldn't put anything against against these creatures. I think they could figure this stuff out.
So this is putting me in a Deep Blue Sea scenario where the sharks, because I tracked every movement of the sharks in Deep Blue Sea, and they expertly sunk the thing to get out. I mean, they made some mistakes along the way, the two dumber ones, but I don't know.
Can the graboids dig backwards though? Is the question?
Of course.
I mean, they move with those little feeler things that are all over their skin. I don't see why they couldn't.
Yeah. It'd be easier too, right? Because they already dug through it.
Exactly.
There is going to be so many sinkholes, right? Because where is that soil going when it digs under the ground? Does it just move it?
Pushes it to the side. Yeah. I don't know. We got to ask an expert on like prairie dog tunnels or something like that, I guess. I don't know how it works.
Let's bring them in.
Yeah.
See, I thought you knew all this stuff. That's why we were talking Tremors.
I should. I mean, we got prairie dogs all over the place out here in Colorado. I mean, they sit by the side of the road and wait for handouts, but I don't know how their tunnels work.
After watching, this movie too, when Fred Ward's, his foot probably falls in a prairie dog hole, doesn't it?
That's a great joke. That's sort of the funniest moment.
After watching Ballad of Buster Scruggs, whenever I watch Westerns where the horses are just running across the plains, I'm like, is there a prairie dog hole around there? Are they going to fall?
Well, and people that have problems with horses having, bad things happen to them are not going to like this movie. There's a scene in this movie where a horse gets attacked that, all those horse lovers are not going to enjoy.
I feel like they could have saved it pretty quickly, too. They sort of let it just die, and then he shot it.
Yeah. They kind of, they don't act as quickly as they should there. Plus, I don't know. I think you could have picked up those tongue things and just, I mean, they're not necessarily, if you grab them in the right spot, they're not going to be able to reach back and bite you. I mean, watch a few episodes of Steve Irwin. You can figure that out. Not that I'm going out there handling snakes or anything like that. But
I learned how to catch pythons for a documentary I was working on. I went through a training.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of pythons in the Everglades. So in college in 2009, I drove down there with some classmates. And we filmed so all the firefighters get trained on how to deal with snakes. So we went through a training with it.
Ugh.
I mean, I would go nowhere near it.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Those are feisty little things. And then, I don't know, I guess towards the end, I just love how they get in the armored transport and they dig the hole in front of it. I love that scene every time it happens. These things are so smart, these tremors, or graboids. Doesn't matter what we call them, does it?
No, you can call them Tremors. Tremors works.
I mean, it's a good name.
It's a nickname.
Yeah.
Graboids is a little bit of a weird name. I'm kind of surprised they stuck with that through the whole series, to be honest, because it's funny when Victor Wong is saying it, but, just the fact that they keep using that name throughout things, it's weird. And then it goes, I mean, like the Shriekers is a cool name. Ass Blasters is a dumb name. That's just such a dumb name to give these chicken things. But anyway.
It makes them such... When you start naming your monsters Ass Blasters, you just take a lot of the fear or any ounce of suspense out of it.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, guess what's after me? But I don't know. I guess it leads to the end when they're on those rocks. So they escape from the town. Poor Victor Wong gets eaten because of the Coke machine that goes off, and he gets wiped out. And I love when they're on the rocks and they blow up one of them and all the juices fly everywhere on people. That made me so happy.
Yeah.
That made me so happy. And then just the end when I got a plan. Like, it's a pretty good plan that Bacon comes up with, I would say, that shoots the tremor off the side of the cliff. I mean, it's smart.
Yeah. Yeah, but why does he stand there and wait to the last minute to duck away? Because again, it's not like the graboid can see him. The graboid's just running away because the explosion happened behind him. So it really doesn't matter that Bacon stands there till the last minute.
Yeah.
It's for dramatic effect.
And it couldn't hear him, right? It wouldn't, as the explosion happens and it starts blasting through the dirt, it's got to clog your sensors if this dude moves 4 steps to the right.
Yeah, it's about vibrations. That's the thing. Yeah.
Would it sense that as it's flying like 40 miles an hour?
I don't know. If you're running away from an explosion, are you concerned about the fact that Kevin Bacon is running 4 steps to the left? I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Now, do these things worry about tree roots?
That's a good question.
Right? There's got to be rock and does it clunk into things?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things out there in the dirt, I mean, who knows what's been out there for ages. I mean, there might be an Indian burial ground and stuff like that out there too, getting in the way,
They've never, that'd be interesting. Have a Poltergeist 4.
Oh, there you go. Graboids and poltergeist mixed together. That's part 8 right there.
An evil clown riding one of those things. Terrifying.
That's the thing. How come in none of these movies we've never seen anybody actually ride one? Rodeo style or something like that.
They've been swallowed whole. I know that, but they've never. Yeah, they need. Did they ride El Blanco? I don't think so.
I don't remember. I mean, granted, these creatures primarily go underground, but they do crawl around on the surface a bit. I mean, it'd be fun to see Kevin Bacon riding a graboid across the wilderness.
I would pre-order the Blu-ray right now if that'd be
happened. Great.
But then, at the end, the thing flies off, and I love how they built that set at the end that the thing exploded through. It was maybe 8 foot high, 10 foot high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, that's a big. Can you call that a miniature? I guess you kind of have to.
It's I think Peter Jackson on his Lord of the Rings DVDs calls them bigatures all the time.
Yeah, it's perfect. So they built that bigature. I mean, that was man, I would have loved to have worked on this movie because I mean there wasn't much of a budget. It was only 11 million for this at the time, and this is 1990. And I mean, all right, so get this: the budget for this movie was 11 million, right, in 1990. The budget for Son-in-Law in 1993, the Pauly Shore movie, was 20 million. So, inflation didn't even matter that much in those 3 years. So this movie had $9 million less than Son-in-Law, and it still holds up today.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this film, I guess it eventually, made a profit on things. I was reading up on it a bit, and, it didn't open big. I mean, let's say it was January when this thing opened, and I think it opened at 4 or 5 on the weekend, something like that. So it wasn't a big hit. It was all the stuff from the previous Christmas season that were still doing well. But the film had legs, and it kept on, ranking in the top 10 for a few weeks there and such. And, I know that it had some critical praise. I mean, I seem to remember seeing Siskel and Ebert, gave this, good ratings. And I was like, really? Giant worms? Siskel and Ebert like this thing? All right.
Yeah, Ebert dug it. That made me so happy knowing that Ebert gave it a thumbs up. He hated how the creatures, there were POV shots of the creatures under the ground.
Yeah, creatures that don't have eyes, we get POV shots from.
I was like, that makes sense. I was like, but I don't care. I love it. But yeah, and also, I think VHS greatly helped this movie as well, because I own the VHS. I mean, I had, and this is right around, the boom of VHSs, I would say, in rental places and all of those areas. So I think, and then cable. This movie was on.
I was gonna say it got a lot of cable play. I mean, because again, it was PG-13. It was a PG-13 horror movie, so they could play it in the afternoons. I remember watching this thing. It was on every afternoon in the summertime on HBO and Showtime and stuff.
And then, even with the swear words, so you have them calling them I love the scene where we killed that mother humper, and then got it, one mother humper down, but that you didn't even have to edit that out in this movie. There's a few.
No, I think Bacon drops one F-bomb, if I remember correctly, when the creature busts through the wall early in the film. Yeah,
and that's warranted, right? But yeah,
I suppose.
But I mean, it's Yeah, and then I didn't really have the HBO or Showtimes, but I remember it being on TNT, maybe TBS, FX, whatever
They
channel.
probably played it on Sci-Fi Channel a lot. Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I feel like most people, so I'm 37. I feel like most people my age have watched Tremors before. I can't say everyone because I'm in a movie bubble, so I can't assume that. But I mean, I don't know. I think and I think it's done well over the years. People still love this franchise.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. They're still making movies in this franchise 30 years later. It's this movie's celebrating its 30th anniversary here in another month and a half, you know.
I need to pitch this article to Rotten Tomatoes for a 30th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. That'd be fun. I wonder if they'd let me do that. People love this movie. Well,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. It's hanging on. And I mean, they even did I only think it lasted a season or so, but they did a TV show too, you know. So yeah, this franchise has had legs, and then with monsters that have no legs.
And also they filmed a Kevin Bacon pilot that Sci-Fi didn't move forward with the guy who directed Cube. He did that. Are we able to watch that anywhere?
I don't know. I saw a few clips out there and about, but I don't know if the episode's out there anywhere. But yeah, I do wish Bacon would come back to the series, you know. I mean, he's Kevin Bacon. I guess he could do whatever he wants to do. But just the way that you have had some of these other folks, you know, just the fact that Michael Gross has hung on so long. I mean, Fred Ward was in at least the second one. It'd be nice to see Bacon come back to this.
Take it full circle.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But no, when we talked about recommendations for this movie, what kind of led you to say Tremors? Like, I didn't pitch that to you. You said, how does Tremors sound?
You know, I don't know. I think I was kind of looking through a list of films. I might have been going through my Letterboxd, and you know, I had kind of been going through lately on there and clicking the little heart button for movies that I like. And so I was looking through, okay, what movies did I click the heart button on? And I had clicked it on Tremors, and I was like, oh yeah, Tremors. That's just such a fun movie, you know? I mean, it's one that I've seen many, many times, and if you plopped it in front of me and said, here, you want to watch Tremors? I'd say, darn right, I want to watch Tremors. It's a great movie.
Did you even have to ask?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, but this was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on and joining me on this. Did you want to tell the people about the Forgotten Filmcast, or did you want to promote anything before we get out of here?
Oh, yeah. I will always promote my stuff. So, yeah, I have a podcast that's called the Forgotten Filmcast. You can find it on iTunes and, you know, all those various other places that you find podcasts. We talk about the movies that time forgot. So, you know, films that just aren't in the conversation much anymore. Like Mark mentioned, he was on an episode recently where we talked about George A. Romero's Knight Riders. We've talked about various other things recently. The most recent episode also involved worms. We talked about the film Squirm on the most recent episode of that show. I also have another podcast, which is called Walt Sent Me, which is all about Disney movies, but we talk about Disney movies in the grand sense. So really anything that's been released by any Disney studio, we talk about it. So, I mean, for example, Mark, you mentioned Son-in-Law a minute ago. We haven't done an episode on Son-in-Law, but it was released by a Disney studio. We did Encino Man, but we haven't done Son-in-Law yet. But, you know, anything that was released by Disney, Touchstone Pictures, Hollywood Pictures, Miramax, when they owned that studio, that's fair game for that podcast.
Oh, that's fun. So you got hundreds and hundreds of movies.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, no, and then also, where's your Letterboxd at in case people want to follow you on Letterboxd?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Just search for my name, Todd Liebenow. I'm sure it'll come up on there.
Got it. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
So for me, Mark, and for Todd, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.